Nau mai, haere mai, and welcome everybody, and thank you for coming along to this monthly presentation by the New Zealand Society of Genealogists. So tonight we're looking at a new resource that we have recently started putting up on the website, and that is the Kiwi Guides. So I'm just going to share my screen quickly here. The homepage. And as usual with these things, it's how do you find what we've just put in? The quickest way is the quick link. So I'm just going to highlight the 3 Kiwis we have in a row here. The Kiwi collection I talk a lot about, which is our repository of records, over 16 million at the last update. And if you scroll up on the screen, there's the blurb for that on the top there. The Kiwi Resources are a collection we launched last year, which is to help you find New Zealand records that sort of cover a national sort of collections, so that you might find family members in from any part of the country. The third one of the Kiwis that we have recently done, or is coming on slowly but surely on the website, is the Kiwi Guides. Now these are aimed at local information, and to that end we have Sharon and Bronwyn here tonight, who are going to say a little bit when I get to them about the local resources that they are involved with, because many of our members around the country are actually involved with local museums, galleries, archives and family history groups, as well as local history groups. So there are lots there. So to get into the Kiwi Guides, you can either scroll down, click on this link here, or if you go up to resources, there it is sitting just there. And just as a reminder, you need to be logged in, because if you're not logged in, you will only get to this page and you won't get any further. So we have arranged the Kiwi Guides into 21 districts, and this is my back of an envelope map on the side here. Unfortunately, we haven't got it linking. Watch this space, we may do that at some point in the future. And it gives you an idea about how to use the Kiwi Guides, and then, of course, because we want to get into the Kiwi Guides, the list of districts. And I'm going to plug us into the Wellington one, just noting that this is a work in progress, but we have got a lot of districts already in there, but the rest will be coming in very soon. Now, because I'm based in Wellington, I am going to pick the Wellington one as an example of what we hold within the Kiwi Guides. So we have a nice pretty picture showing angles, different angles and sites of Wellington. The first thing we have up on the Kiwi Guide is some links to some websites that will tell you about the history of the area. Now these will be quite high level history, but it'll give you an idea of, you know, who was where when from different areas and different countries, and how people might have moved in and out of the areas. On the left here we have the map, and if you click on it, it will actually open you another map into Google Maps, which might help you focus in and work out where your family were, because of course one of the big things is always where they were. And I've recently written a column for my branch newsletter which is all about places that have the same name, which is always something you need to be wary of. So getting into the map is a great idea. And of course, because we're the NZSG, the first thing you will see is where our branches are. So there are 4 here in the Wellington area. And if you click on those, it will take you through to the page for that branch, telling you when their meetings are and any other useful information from them. The next section is all council information. So we start with the regional council. Now, there may or may not be any reason for you to want to contact a regional council. It can depend on where you are. You know, some regional councils have information at because they don't have a district council. You know, Auckland's an interesting one because it's just one huge council. But most information is going to be at district council level. And so here in Wellington, there are 4 district councils: the Hutt, Pairua, Upper Hutt and Wellington City, and they haven't amalgamated us yet, so that's good for now. And in each council setting, we have information on how you can access their website, where their libraries are. So, you know, you might be visiting and you want to pop in. Some libraries do have local history experts or local history collections. It's always worthwhile getting into their catalogue before you go, so there's links there where you can find them. If they've got an online local history, so many organisations, especially councils, but not just limited to councils, have these Recollect websites. So they're really great places to find pictures. I know, for example, the Wellington, there are about 3 Recollects in Wellington, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, but one of the Wellington ones has things like school histories, anniversary booklets and things like that were put together. So that can be an interesting way to find them. And then there will be information on cemeteries, if they have an archive. And one of the reasons you might go looking at a council level for records other than cemeteries and libraries is for property records, because they hold things like building consents and plans of houses and things, which might be useful if you're looking into the houses that your family owned or built. And I have to say that the Hutt City one I had found really useful when I was researching my great-grandmother building a house in Lower Hutt. So after the councils, and there's all sorts of different things. Councils have different resources available. We have the museums, and there are quite a few of them, and we've sort of broken them up because Wellington's, a reasonably big area. We've broken them up into the Hutt Valley, and then Porirua, and then Wellington Central. Now you'll note some of them, when they have a sort of particular theme to it and may hold records that are available on a national sense, we will refer you over to the Kiwi resources, because we've put them there under their topic rather than under their geography. So there will be a few ones in there, and just as an example, we could flip over, because we've got the Porirua Hospital Museum. We've included that into the medical records, and I was interested to see how many actual medical museums we do have in New Zealand. We are up to 4 of them scattered around the country that might give you probably more background information rather than direct records on your family. And definitely I would say you need to look at the archives advice if you wanted to find actual records from a medical sense on your family. But it's just, one of the museums that are here. And if you're in Wellington and you get the opportunity, the Porirua Hospital is well worth a visit. Just, to be a little, if nothing else, to be horrified about what we used to do in terms of mental health and looking after people. I'll keep scrolling down because we have a lot of museums here in Wellington, being the capital. And again, you'll see at the bottom in the Wellington bit, we have the Cricket Museum and the Reserve Bank Museum. We've moved those into the Kiwi resources. Archives. Now, I was a little bit surprised that it hadn't really occurred to me that universities hold archives, but of course they hold archives. So they're one of the archives that are local rather than national, and Victoria University Archive actually has our Recollect, which again is one of these really cool online repositories of images and other information. And because they're all Recollect, they're all the same, so once you figure out how to search one, you can search all of them. Of course, here in Wellington, we have all the national repositories, Archives New Zealand, National Library, Ngā Tonga Sound and Vision, and Te Papa Tongarewa, which is the National Museum. And we, of course, have a special page for them. And then we get on to historical societies, and there are quite a few of them. And I would like to welcome, from the Southern Bays Historical Society, Sharon McIntyre, who is going to say a few words. Now, Sharon, do you want me to show the Facebook page, or would you like to share your screen?
We can just do that at the end, share my screen perhaps. I've got 1 or 2 items that I might show you just briefly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you for inviting me to come. I've been involved with the Wellington Southern Bays Historical Society for 21 years now. That was since it came into being, but it's only really in the last 3 years or so that I've been part of the looking after the collection. And we had a retired archivist who started the society She has since passed away. But at that first meeting, we decided what our boundaries would be. Then they became Owhiro Bay, Island Bay and Houghton Bays. I also began a little local history group for the Brooklyn area because that was where I was living at the time. The collection has been housed in 2 places, and it currently is housed in 2 large cupboards at the Island Bay Community Centre. Because the space is used by many groups, items need to be set up and packed down at each session. I've been part of the team of 4 who took over after our curator retired 2 years ago. Our collection comprises of boxes of books, large amounts of photos, display boards, folders of information, oral history recordings and transcripts, magazines, and some small items of historical interest, such as labelled teacups from the Blue Platter Cafe, which was very famous in its heyday, but no longer exists. We also have quite a decent collection of books, excuse me. But then, of course, the first port of call for books is usually libraries for people. And we do have items that really mostly just relate to the Southern Bays area. And they include a few unpublished books. And this is an example of Eric Maffey's unpublished history. It's really snippets of recollections of little incidents and historical data for around the area. And that one is something that might be useful for genealogists because there might just be something that triggers memories for people. We have 1 or 2 others as well, and we have a few unpublished family histories. We published a magazine a while back that had, we published one each year after the first couple, and this particular one had a list of books written about the Southern Bays and by people from the Southern Bays. And this was written 12 years ago, but it's a very comprehensive history of publications you might like to think about. We do keep back copies of some of the magazines, so we can always try and get them to you if you're interested in them. Anyway, there are, where am I? There are some the local branch libraries used to keep local suburban history in filing cabinets in the old days, and the cabinets included photos and newspaper clippings. But as the internet grew in the early 2000s, the libraries made a decision to stop clipping the newspapers and to get rid of the filing cabinets and put the local history material into folders. And they're still kept on site at the branch libraries, but they're not really being added to. That was quite a good research tool for people looking because it was nice and easily. They were usually arranged in the subject area or in a chronological order, and people could go through and browse, and a lot of memories could come from that. And it might be from an era when papers past hasn't quite caught up. So, excuse me. So there is a bit of a gap where papers past stops, and there's not anything on the internet, and these newspaper clippings that the library has, and also we've digitised, and we are adding to that collection with newspaper clippings. So we're a good place to go for that. These clippings and other papers, maps, photos, plans are housed in a multitude of large ring binder folders arranged by topics such as pre-European settlement, biography, artists, occupations, clubs, churches, schools, development of the suburb, the beaches, shipwrecks, business, coastline development, and many, many more. A lot of the photos that we've got in our collections are also, they're just copies of items that you can see in Digital NZ or in various library and museum collections. But some of them are unique to us. As people go through their family records, they become aware that maybe the society would like them, so they give them to us. So we're gradually getting a bigger collection of those.
And you have some amazing, huge photographs.
Oh yes,
yes. I've seen them on your open days.
And we do, yeah, absolutely. What you're referring to is once a year at the Island Bay Festival, we hire out the Surf Club building, which is now run by the Marine Education Centre, and we use the whole hall and fill up displays on tables, and we've got large maps that are put in chronological order around the base of the room, and people can sort of walk through history as it's developing and how the suburbs are spreading and so on. We've got large folders or display boards on particular topics that we put out with explanations. We often put the big ring binder folders that relate to that topic as well, so people can browse through. And we've got lots of other separate photos. But our most popular one is a large panorama by Sydney Charles Smith in 1912. And each quarter is about that big by that big. And so you get a really good view looking from west to east across Island Bay. And it's amazing what detail you can see. It's high quality. And people spend ages looking at it, and they identify their houses sometimes, or they can see buildings that they couldn't see because it's covered in trees now. They can sort of see what was around in the early days but isn't now. Sometimes they're lucky to find their own house and they get really excited. Sometimes it's resulted in conversations where we've learnt information from people about what used to happen at such and such a place. And we can bring that out at any time when people come in for the open day. Our open days, we do advertise on Facebook, and we put up a little poster and sometimes have a theme. But anybody's welcome to come in with their own queries, and we'll just go with the flow. And we find that people, we don't get a huge amount of people, which is just as well, because sometimes they'll be there for a couple of hours, and if there's only two of us, then we can be fully occupied for that time, and it's fun. We really like to have people come in. We have lots of inquiries actually about people wanting to know about the house they've just bought, and if we've got any details. Now, occasionally we do. Sometimes houses are well known for a reason, for what else used to be there, who else used to live there, or it might have some architectural merit, and so we might have records of that. But more often than not, actually, we don't, and so we'll refer them and get them going on their search at Council Archives so that they can go and look up what records there are there. And we're used to doing that because it's something we've done quite a few times. We have 4 public meetings a year, and they are on various topics, hopefully mostly to do with the Southern Bays. Quite often they are Wellington based. Occasionally we'll have a speaker who is talking New Zealand wide, but it's mostly relating to the Southern Bays. In the early days, we used to record these presentations, and then we would create transcripts for them. And so if you've got an ancestor that was a speaker or maybe part of the topic, like being involved in the shipwreck or a rescue, something like that, then it might be worth looking through some of these transcripts to see if there's a mention. They're not a huge part of the collection, and most of our collection's not easy you can't really access it online. Our website's not actively working at the moment because we haven't got anybody to run it, and so we haven't got much information up there. So the access is through coming in to see us, and if you can't do that, then I can be happy to leave my email address and people can make inquiries through me. And then when I get there within a couple of weeks, I can see what I can find when I arrive. Unfortunately, we don't have that expertise at the moment, but we are hoping to work on getting our catalogue online at the very least, because it's just in a folder at the moment, and it's so people will come in having no clue what we've got really, unless they've seen our big exhibition at the Island Bay Festival, and that does bring people in. It certainly whets people's appetite. I think I've talked enough about that one, but I was going to well, when we're doing our genealogy, we've got things at the genealogy level, the family history level, but we've actually, it's in a place as well. The local history relates to the place where people live, and the big H history links us to theme. And so it's useful, I found it useful anyway, looking through not just family history type resources, but looking at the bigger picture, what the environment was around at the time, that sort of thing. And we can cater for that. In this article about 12 years ago, I'll just read a little bit if I may. This was by Colin Feslier. Island Bay, Ofira Bay and Houghton Bay's landscape and people have hosted and inspired writers for more than a century, and there is a surprising volumes, large and small, associated with the area. This article results from work being done on an annotated bibliography aimed at supporting research and writing about us and our area. And this was worked on by previous curator Marion Finley and Mary Logan. Since 2005, the Society has published more than 40 articles on aspects of the region's history in its magazine Southern Bays, which is this one. Members of the Society have also published independently a history of Island Bay School, of the Island Bay RSA and wartime in the region, the Catholic Church parish in Island Bay, and the Island Bay Hotel and Blue Platter tea rooms, which are unpublished, but you can see the drafts. There are a few oral histories, and there are some unpublished manuscripts and family histories. There's a large amount of material in the magazines and in the collection. The article is about work done outside the covers of the magazine and published in the same way. And it includes things like my favourite picture book, Annie and Moon, which includes drawings of houses around Island Bay, among others.
It is funny where local history will pop up.
Yeah, absolutely. Like yeah, there's some Te Reo texts. There's a famous book called Our Street by Brian Sutton Smith, who was a world recognised educator. He worked in America mostly, but he wrote a novel called Smitty Does a Bunk and followed up by in 1951 called Our Street, which is just based on Waikato Street in Island Bay, where he grew up. And so it's all about schoolboys shenanigans and so on, but it really gives you a good idea of the sort of life people growing up had in the suburb and the sort of things they used to get up to. So that's just a small part of the collection. We've got in, I just thought I'd point out a couple in one of these magazines. Here is one called Will Pedersen's Memories as told to his daughter, Linda Cronus. And that is all about growing up on one particular street. And it's well documented, well written, lots of photos from the family history, and it reads really well. There's another one called The Italians in Island Bay, and we have a lot of Island Bay families from the early fishing days still in Island Bay, and they've written lots of items as well. Paul Alenio is one such person who is a journalist, and he's written a good article about the Italians. And here's another one by one of our committee members at the time about his memories in Island Bay. So magazines are a really good source for that. And I think because my voice is giving up, I might just stop there.
Thank you,
Sorry about
Sharon.
that.
And that's just, this is one little geographical area of New Zealand, and there are lots of historical societies around the place who are emulating what Sharon and her predecessors have done in terms of pulling together local information. And I know when I was writing my thesis, I reached out to the Eastbourne Historical Society, and they were really helpful, and reading books where people had written their reminiscences was fascinating. Like, I never knew that a Japanese warplane overflew Wellington Harbour during World War II, because it's not in the newspapers because they censored it. But of course, somebody's writing about it when they're remembering their childhood experiences during World War II. And, little nuggets of information that you can get that sort of, give a bit more rounding to your family story when you're coming to write it, or to your understanding of what your family might have been through, and may lead to more records as you understand what was happening at the time. Now, I have a second guest here tonight, and that's Bronwyn Spurr, and she is here on behalf of the Waihi Arts Centre and Museum. Did I get the words in the right order?
You have, yes.
So this
Hello.
is Waihi up in
Waihi. We're right in the centre of Waihi. The Waihi Arts Centre Museum was established in 1962, and we're in a lovely old building which was previously a technical college built in 1912. And since 1962, not me personally, but all these volunteers have been building up a collection of, I'm going to say, stuff about the Waihi area. And it could be anything from club institutions, school records, church records, anything about banks, jubilee booklets, lodges, photographs. And we have a very clear collections policy, which we adhere to. We have a collections team that says, yes, we take this, or no, we don't. And it comes into us, and it's carefully logged, catalogued, put on a database, and we've got it there and put it away, and as Sharon says, all in topical subjects. And there are two volunteers, one's myself and the other is Harriet Taylor, who was a long-time NZSG member, and our role is research. And we deal with research queries from the general public. And we have this facility set up on our website, which is the Waihi Arts Centre Museum website, under research and resources, and people can apply to us to research whatever they want us to research within the Waihi area, which sort of extends to the Karangahaki Gorge in one area and Katikati in the other, and Whangamatā in the other direction. We don't have the facility for people to do personal research. We've got too much stuff in there, as well as being a museum which is open to the public. But we undertake research for people, and it's mostly family history research. I'm looking for my great-grandfather. He was a miner in Waihi, probably around 1910 or something like that. And as long as they can give us enough detail about the person, we go for it. And we find as much information as we can. And how do we do this? Well, in between doing research queries, we index. And we have been through all of the publications, and there's many of them, and we set up databases and put all the names, the places, the important places, anything like a boarding house to a hotel or a park or whatever, because this is what people will be looking for, and the names of the people and the page number of the book it's in and where the book is housed within our archives area. And bingo, we can find all of this information when the research query comes in, and we just send off to the people whatever they want, whatever we can find. We do make a charge of a flat charge of $30 which could be 2 pieces of paper, it could be 20 pieces of paper. And, we do a covering letter to tell people what they want to know. So yes, that's what we do there. But we've built up a newspaper collection because, as Sharon was saying, we've only got newspapers up to 1950, which we have for Waihi area. But we have got the newspapers since then stored in our archives. We haven't indexed those. We haven't gone as mad as that. But if somebody came to us with a query to say, my dad was a footballer somewhere in Waihi, probably in a particular area, we will search those newspapers. We'll also search our databases because we have thousands of photographs in our collection, and we've just got a keyword search, and we'll go in and we might find, Granddad in the football team and anything else about him. Such a wide range of categories that we've got. We provide a service to the public. Some people are keen genealogists anyway, and they know a lot, but we find a lot of people don't even know where to start and look. They don't even know where to look for somebody's date of birth, or they've never heard of papers past, so we can steer them in the right direction, maybe find something for them. Yeah, well, that was a bit rushed, but
that was great.
Missed. We've got a lot of family histories, because if people come to us for family history information, quite often they go away and do a book. So we always like to get a complimentary copy of that book. So that goes in our archives as well. Because you can picture life, there's another member of the family somewhere else who is also researching that surname. So we can give them information from it. We've got oral histories as well. Because Waihi has always historically been a mining town since about 1870 something, but we have got the old Waihi Gold Mining Company time and wage ledgers from 1896 right up until the mine closed in 1952. And we've got another couple of ladies who are currently indexing those and putting them online, and they will be available for people to view free on the Waihi Arts Centre Museum website. It's a long old job because there's 50 big ledgers to do, but they've got about 8 or 10 of them done. But if somebody was fairly specific about, Granddad worked in the mine probably between this year and that year, Harriet and I will go through them, find some entries for them, and they say, yes, so we worked these weeks, these days, his pay was 8 shillings and 6pence or whatever. I think people love this sort of information, and we can photocopy it for them and let them have it. So that's another great resource we have. Yeah. Anything else? What have I missed?
Oh, I'm sure people will find lots of things to find. So the Waihi area will be up on the Kiwi Guides before too long. With a link through to how you can get in touch with Bronwyn and Harriet if your research is taking you in that direction. But I think between Bronwyn and Sharon, they've given you just a hint of the sort of information that's still kept at local level, and that when you're doing your family history and you want to find out more, that you need to spread your wings out and think a bit more widely, and then narrow in on a geographical area and start looking at the records that are held more locally, because of course not everything is going to be in the central repositories that we have, and that we generally all kind of get to grips with quite quickly when we start researching our family history. So I'd like to thank both Bronwyn and Sharon for coming along tonight and sharing about their respective organisations, because they're just two of many. And, having read through all of the ones that have gone up on the website, there are a huge number of local resources out there. So I'd encourage you to go and have a look at the Kiwi Guides and see what you can find that can save you some time. It can point you in the direction of where you need to be looking, and it is a great resource for adding just more to your family history. I'm going to wrap it up there, unless anybody's got some questions.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can, Ross.
I just wanted to say thank you to Bronwyn for the wonderful service they have at Waihi. We went in there. My wife has relatives from there. Her relative is one of those men in the lift that collapsed down.
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
1933.
Yeah,
Oh,
and then
yes.
we spoke to, I don't know whether it was you or a couple of the other ladies.
I think you did. Yes.
Yeah, was it you? And you know, you all knew where my wife's relatives lived and had a lovely conversation. So it really works. I mean,
Oh,
it
that's
really
nice.
works.
Nice
Yeah.
to hear. Thank you,
So
Ross. Good.
thank you for that.
yes. And I think Ross is highlighting another thing about the Kiwi Guides that will make them useful is if you're planning to visit, it's giving you a list of all of these organisations that you can make contact with before you go to check when they're open or when they're available and what they might have to help you. Because there's nothing, it's always really fascinating to walk in the footsteps of your ancestors and see where they were and where they've been. And the Waihi Museum, you guys got done over as part of the Heritage Rescue, didn't you?
Yeah.
A few years back.
Looks good. Yes. Yeah.
So, there's plenty of amazing little museums and little historical societies around the place. There's lots of information. Thank you,
Sharon, are
Ross.
you making those approaches or are you waiting for them to come to you?
We're basically just putting them in if we know about them.
Okay.
So
I might give you a few clues then. So
yeah,
we visit lots.
Oh, cool! Because we've put them out to the branches to help because of course they're the best experts on their local area. So they're slowly weaving their way back to us to put up on the website. But yep, anything you'd like to add would be great.
Okay.
And I will add that for any of the resources on the website that are there to help people find things. If you find something new, do come and send me an email education@genealogy.org.nz and we'll get it up on the website to help other people because there is so much out there.
I'd like to do a shout out to the Staveley Museum in Canterbury. When I was down there last year, they're only open for a couple of hours on a Sunday afternoon, and they'd been posting on Facebook, so that's where I knew about them. And I thought, I might just go in because they're putting in a lot of family history information. And I have a great-great-grandfather who was a teacher, and his wife were both teachers at these small schools around the area. And so I went there, and I knew that they were there in 1883 because the Gazette had told me. But I found out through the museum that on their index, they had them there for a couple more years. They even had a large photo of the Springburn School with the kids outside playing, and this gentleman with a large top hat, looking quite eccentric. And I thought, no, it's the wrong year. It can't be him. But then when they found more dates for me, I thought, it might be him after all. So now I have a vague idea of what he might look like. And I had other bits of information from them as well. So it was a really worthwhile excursion to go up and see them.
Yeah, it definitely can be. You never know what they're going to find. I mean, I went to the Akaroa Museum a few years back and, I'd gotten in touch first and my, my great-grandfather went to school there and his uncle, who was then his father, which is complicated family history, they took me out the back and I got to look at the original school registers and things like that. It's just amazing what you can find at a local level, which is one of the reasons we've put these guides together so people can find them.
It turned out that this Springburn School was the actual building itself. They'd moved it onto site and now it's in a Staveley Museum. So it was lovely to be able to look up at the vaulted ceilings and think, my great-grandparents taught here and their children went to school in here. And I did have one through the Ashburton Museum, did have one register with them teaching. So that was cool to see too.
Yeah. So much out there.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I'm going to wrap things up for now. As usual, I am being vague on what we're doing next month on the monthly presentation because I have a few ideas, but I'm not quite sure which one I'm going to do yet. So keep your eyes out on the eKit and Facebook. We'll be announcing what we're going to do. So thanks again to Sharon and Bronwyn for coming along tonight and talking about their organisations. And I look forward to seeing everybody again next time.
Nice to meet you all.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.